Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 25.
25?
Yeah. I am John Fleury.
And I'm Christopher Wade. Wow, we're at 25 already. Feels good.
Yeah, only took us a year and a half, or not even a year, 4 months. Because,
year and a half.
You know, I'm kind of embarrassed because when I first submitted us to like iTunes and all these other like platforms that I'm about to say, I said a weekly podcast, but it didn't take too long for us to realize weekly podcasts are hard as balls to pull off.
Life happens, dude.
So we're aiming for bi-weekly, to be honest, and. Speaking of listening platforms, you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, and I think just most apps and sites that go to like general syndicated podcast directories. Like I use the third-party app Downcast on iOS and have us on there. And if you want to follow us on social media, we'll often get bonus material. You can send us messages and feedback, and you can even sometimes get announcements of our next topics before you hear it on the show. Go to facebook.com/sketchwatchplay, probably the most popular one, but also on Twitter @sketchwatchplay, and you can email us directly for feedback, comments, or even topic suggestions at sketchwatchplay@gmail.com.
Sounds good.
Yep. So how have you been lately?
I've been all right. Been super busy, but I can't complain too much.
I guess I'd be the same way. Though, actually, funny thing, I mentioned in the past that I have had depression at certain points, and I actually texted you on Facebook the other day, just feeling down, just not knowing what to talk about. But you had seen a Twitter mention I sent your way that I just bought Mario Rabbids, and so we talked about Mario Rabbids for a little while. So Thank you, Rabbids.
Yeah, thank you, Rabbids.
And what a funny thing, because believe it or not, I'm going to find a way to connect them to our main topic.
Oh boy, okay.
It'll make sense. It won't make you happy, but it'll make sense.
I'm ready for this, I think.
Don't worry, we won't make it another rabbit-centric segment.
Cool.
Because really, I think the main thing I picked is something I now know we both hold very dearly.
Mm-hmm.
But we have two other things to talk about before that. And the first, this was the thing you wanted to suggest, and this is going to be something that's a bit more speculation because we have very little to go off of. So the latest Nintendo Direct happened recently, and as they often do, they ended it with a bombshell. Smash Brothers for Switch this year.
Yeah, this year. Oh, man, I forgot all about that.
It's crazy when you think about it, because I am so used to, every Smash except the N64 original, they announce it way in advance. I feel like Brawl came out like almost 2 years after its original announcement. So the idea, and that's part of the fun, is just that build of excitement, that gradual trickle of like character drops and announcements. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how they handle the hype. If they're, it wouldn't surprise me if they delay it to early next year, because that happened with Brawl.
Yeah.
But still, I guess we're to assume that they got to work on this immediately after finishing the last one.
Apparently, Sakurai has been working on it for
tweeted.
A good couple of years, it seems.
Which makes me wonder, how did you read about how hard the development cycle was for him personally last time?
Yeah, he developed some pain in his hand or something.
In his wrist from all this computer and artwork, and he pretty much said I don't think I could do another one of these and be healthy. So it wouldn't surprise me if he comes out, he's sharing director duties this time, or maybe taking more of an overseer role like Miyamoto does nowadays.
Yeah,
I feel like they have enough material at this point to give it to another director and still be confident.
Yeah, I think so too. Judging from the amount of talent they've been raising for the past couple of years.
Yeah. Bandai Namco helped them with the last one. That's why Pac-Man was in.
Yeah,
and
I think they'll do really well on this one.
Yeah, and it's also just so interesting the way they announced, so cryptic by the series standards. We know, here's all we know. Link is almost certainly going to have his Breath of the Wild outfit. He was in silhouette, but no hood, blue shirt. So
yeah.
And Mario's confirmed, obviously. And I think people point out in the silhouettes, you could see familiar silhouettes like Samus and DK and Bowser. And we have our first confirmed ones, and it's not surprising at all. We're finally getting inklings.
Yeah. Yeah, they are now the Nintendo standard at this point.
I was hoping they came out early enough to be Wii U DLC, but maybe they decided to hold off a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this leads into the big thing everybody always starts talking about when a new Smash is announced. Who do you think and who do you want to be newcomers in this? Do you have a list?
I totally have a list. So
let's hear it.
I think at this point, I've been playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2 so much.
Yep.
I think the Xenoblade series is now the official JRPG Final Fantasy.
Yes, it's totally even Final Fantasy. It even takes the format of how every game is basically its own continuity, but with little recurring touches and character races.
Yeah, And since the the last Smash Brothers had a Xenoblade character,
Shulk.
I wouldn't be surprised if Rex and Pyra from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 happened to show up.
Yeah, and I'm interested in that because part of one of the gimmicks in that game is about the connection between the driver, the hero, and the blade, their living weapon. So I'm wondering if we would get some sort of if Pyra would be like a Luma or an ice climber, would you have to take her into consideration as well? Because that's part of the game is the farther away they are from you, the weaker you are.
Yeah,
maybe you'd have to keep tabs on her.
I honestly think I honestly think that's going to happen. Like there's Xenoblade is now such an official tie to Nintendo, and sword wielding characters are so strong, so obnoxiously strong in Smash Brothers.
I like the sword wielding guys. I'm big in them and the heavies like Bowser. Yeah,
I would be surprised if they don't show up at all.
Yeah, and I have some lists. Actually, I'm guessing before we see them, the Inklings are going to be very projectile driven. That's just their nature.
Yeah.
Though I'm sure you've played Splatoon, right?
Yeah, I played a little bit.
I'll bet you the paint roller could be a close-up attack.
Yeah, that'd be really sweet, actually.
Yeah, short range, but pretty devastating. And I'll bet, how awesome would it be if you could incorporate into the terrain, splash the ground, then swim through it?
Oh, that'd be sweet. That'd be so fucking awesome if they did that.
I'm guessing, to balance that out, they'll probably be very light because they're not very big, but they'll be good at being stealthy. And probably fast too.
Yeah, definitely very fast.
And another new Nintendo series that I feel has to be given. I think we're going to see at least one ARMS character. That's already a fighting game.
Springman and Spring Girl,
Ribbon Girl.
Yeah, Ribbon Girl.
Yeah,
they're definitely going to be in there. That's not even.
Yeah, I wasn't even that big on the game, but I love the characters, so I'd be up for having some representation there. But I was also looking at patterns for newcomers, and I feel like just because of how they've done it, we have to get at least one new Mario newcomer, but I feel like we're running out of really obvious ones. So my guesses were maybe you could incorporate Cappy into Mario or get an alternate version of him, or maybe finally get Paper Mario because he has different moves like the hammer. Or hey, maybe even Pauline somehow.
I honestly think that Cappy is going to be incorporated into Mario this time around. And
you could replace Flood maybe.
Yeah, well, Flood, I mean, a lot of people don't like Flood.
I don't. I prefer the Tornado move.
Yeah, but what it seems like is that, I mean, a lot of people in the competitive Smash community, they at least acknowledge the fact that Flood is actually really handy.
If you know how to use them, I don't really.
Yeah, if you know how to use Flood, he can give you some serious distance between opponents and even keep them from jumping back onto the platform. Yeah,
the Smash moves are all about deflecting counters. Have never been my thing. I'm more about brute force.
Yeah. But the Rex and Pyra, I think, are gonna show up.
And one other thing I noted, another tradition, they often have at least one new Pokemon, which makes me think we're gonna get someone from Sun and Moon.
Oh, I think that the Ghost Owl.
Yes, I wrote Rowlet and Litten's final forms seem really suited for it. One's very stealthy and one's a huge brawler. Yeah.
And plus, since Charizard is already a fire type, and we already did water last time.
But Ninja could still come back, and Ivysaur's gone, so give us a plant type.
Yeah, but besides that, I kind of think Crash Bandicoot's going to make an appearance. Honestly,
man, he is coming to Switch. It is not out of the realm possibly. Oh, did you see the Xbox tweets the other day?
I did.
Somebody tweeted to the head of the Xbox, they basically straight up asked, if Nintendo asked, would you be willing to let Banjo and Kazooie be in Smash? And he said yes.
Yeah, I would be. That would make me so happy.
Oh man, that or Conquer. But I don't see either happening. But we can dream.
Yeah, I think contractually it'll be a nightmare for Nintendo because obviously they have to give. Yeah, obviously Nintendo would have to pay Microsoft dividends to their.
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo, it would probably hurt their pride to have to acknowledge Rare. Which is a shame.
Yeah, to some degree. I mean, let's see. Viva Pinata actually appeared on the 3DS.
DS. It got a DS game, and there were some GBA games too with Banjo and such.
Yeah,
I think THQ published those, so I don't know. I guess it's possible. Yeah, it is possible. I just don't. It's really going to just come down to how both companies feel and are willing to do.
Yeah,
because it's going to have to be Nintendo's call. Because they're probably going to be the ones to. I think the only exception is the only reason Snake was in Brawl was because Sakurai is friends with Kojima and Kojima.
And that's perfectly fine. What about you?
So I wrote, but actually I did make a little list of the ones I would like to see the most, even though some of them are long shots. My biggest one for a while that I feel could still happen because of, especially with Tropical Freeze, is Dixie Kong.
Dixie Kong, okay.
Like, I don't think you can do much representation for DK in terms of like really iconic characters, other than maybe Cranky as well. But Tropical Freeze was awesome, and a lot of people like me who played the Super NES games had great memories of, because Dixie was like the Super NES version of Tails with the gliding ponytail. Even if she was a clone of Diddy, I just want, you know me, I love DK, so I just love some more characters there. Another one that I hear a lot that I think would be cool, Gino from Mario RPG.
Oh, God, I wish that would happen.
He got a Mii costume in Wii U, so they're aware of the demand.
Yeah,
so,
they definitely are. I would so love that, but I wouldn't.
I'm not counting on it. Okay, another thing. If we want more Zelda characters, maybe one of the like supporting champions from Breath of the Wild.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Goron, Sexy Shark Man. Those guys.
Sexy Shark Man, I can totally see Sexy Shark.
Yes, he would be my pick. I don't want the bird guy though, because like I said, he's too Falco looking.
He is very Falco looking, and I'm not sure he's that likable.
I actually never got to his part. I only got halfway through Breath of the Wild, but I'll finish it someday. The last thing, not going to happen, but I would love any WarioWare character because you know me. Maybe another Sis trophy because they added Ashley in Wii U.
I can actually see another Smash, another WarioWare.
Well, we are getting WarioWare Gold this summer, first new one in ages.
Oh, nice.
Maybe depending on... Actually, no, I feel like by the time that comes out, they'll have the character roster locked, but who knows? We'll see. And finally, I've had two most wanted third-party characters for a while, and I'll get out of the way. If either Sonic or Mega Man come back, I think they have a lot of supporting characters they could use. Like, for Sonic, I mainly just want the classic trilogy, so him, Tails, and Knuckles.
Yeah.
In Mega Man's case, I would love either Proto Man or Bass.
Okay.
Like, they can even be, like, clones of them in some part. Like, basically, he's a little slower, or Proto Man can deflect. But, you know, Mega Man's a fun series, big following, and it's finally coming back this year.
Yeah.
And I will say one I wanted back in the day, but I feel like the opportunity has passed. Professor Layton, I would have loved to have him in.
Professor Layton.
Yeah, he's not a fighter, but he's a very resourceful guy, very MacGyver-ish, so I could see them incorporating that. But my two most wanted third-party characters that I still think are feasible, one, Rayman.
Rayman.
Do you remember that they made a trophy for him?
Yeah, I do.
Him, Glowbox, and Barbara. Ubisoft made 3D trophies for the game to use. So there could be some interest there. And I will say, I would love the Rabbids to be an assist trophy if he gets in, but if they were playable and he was not, then I'll be as pissed as you for once.
Yes, that would
be... The other one that I still feel has a good shot because of the inclusion of Cloud last time, Sora.
Oh, Sora.
He's been in more Nintendo games than PlayStation games when you think about it.
That would blow people's mind, actually.
It would blow my mind. He's perfectly suited for it. That whole game is fight and flashy and, man.
Yeah.
And what better way to add more height for Kingdom Hearts 3?
And he's done a crossover fighter before. He was in Dewey Dyson, whatever the fuck that Dissidia game.
He was in Dissidia?
Yeah.
He was in World of Final Fantasy recently.
I think he's a secret character in Dissidia, but he's definitely there.
I'll have to look it up. The only thing is, I know that I remember reading Disney has partial ownership of the original Kingdom Hearts characters, so that would have to be an additional go ahead to get. But I'm sure they probably wouldn't mind that much. Though, you know, for a while I thought it was stupid, but if we see Goku at this point, I'll be like, yeah, all right.
Yeah. I mean,
my only issue is it's not a video game character.
Well, this is true, and but the thing is that Goku already had his Dragon Ball FighterZ game come out,
and a billion games before that.
And a billion games before that. I honestly wouldn't mind Goku, but I obviously want Banjo and Rayman to have their time first. Like, Goku's a cool character, but he's already a multimedia property. Let's get some other characters a chance.
Yeah, Banjo is pretty much dead, and Rayman, he's taking a break at least. Did I tell you about? Did you see Michel Ancel's? He made an Instagram post the other day. It's certainly not confirmation, but so right now he's working on Beyond Good and Evil 2 and this other game called Wild. But he basically said up front, like, when I have some more free time and one of these projects is done, I'm going to see if I can get another 3D Rayman game made. Like the big thing that us Rayman fans have been wanting for over a decade.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I mean, Origins Legends were fucking amazing.
Oh, we talked about it. They're fantastic, but I feel like he kind of perfected that formula with Legends, and I missed like the atmosphere and variety and the aspects that 2 and 3 brought when they went 3D.
Yeah.
And I'm still bitter that Rabbids was originally going to be a platformer.
Yeah, so, I still would appreciate like a proper story mode.
Yeah, I'll bet if Ansel came along, he would probably bring some of those abandoned ideas. And but above that, I just want to see him take advantage of modern technology. Like I've been replaying Rayman 3 in HG. Man, and a new thing like that would look fucking gorgeous. Because the art direction in that series is so wonderful. I'm
also going to like geek out a little bit and say that seeing Undertale show up on the Switch.
Yeah.
That, like, I would so love Sans and Papyrus or even Undyne show up in Smash.
I would not be against that. Yeah. Oh, and Flowey could be an assist trophy.
Oh, Flowey could be an assist trophy. Yeah, that would be cool as shit.
Yeah. So we should move on, but I will say, if there's any other one thing, like, what is like a new type of feature you'd love to see? And I actually know that we both now, because I saw your tweet, we would both like the return of some sort of story campaign mode.
Yeah. The Subspace Emissary was so good.
Yeah, a lot of people hate it. I do not.
Yeah, I'm not one of the people who hate it. I mean, seeing those cutscenes and just rolling through like a proper
yeah, even though there was no dialogue, it was just so much fun.
Yeah, like seeing like Star Fox interact with Diddy Kong.
Yes.
Funny as shit. Like, okay,
or like Peach calming down a dispute with T.
Yeah, it was super fun. I really hope people.
I would. That's what I mean. Like I wish they took more narrative potential, like advantage of the fact that you have all these guys in one game.
Yeah, I think the reason that they haven't is because there's obviously like a lot of they have to do like a lot of building and physics programming for like the 2D stages when characters are running back and forth and trying to dodge enemies and fight enemies on different kinds of platforms.
Yeah,
that can get kind of tricky.
Making sure it works for all characters.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like I think at this point you guys can totally do it.
Yeah, we'll I feel like we'll see before too long because I'm sure this is going to be their big game at E3 in a few months.
Yeah,
if it's coming out this year, I don't know how it couldn't be.
Yeah, that's the seeing.
Rub.
Yeah, well, it's not even the rub. It's like Smash Brothers has always been the biggest, most ambitious crossover event in history.
Did I ever tell you I went to E3 2014?
Oh yeah, you told me.
That was the year it was coming out, so I got to play it before it came out. But they let me go to a closed door conference, and that's where they first announced Pac-Man.
Oh wow, that's sweet.
And showcase like live like Smash Run and like custom moves and stuff. We actually got to see Sakurai on stage talk about all this stuff. It was pretty cool.
Super.
Yep. So that's probably it for Smash. That's it for Smash Brothers for now because you can bet. I noted I had literally never talked to you about Smash Brothers before, so I did not know how into it you were or not.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you own several Nintendo consoles.
Yeah, I did have Smash 4, but quite honestly, I didn't play it very often.
But did you enjoy it at least?
Oh yeah, I totally enjoyed it.
Yeah, the only one I never owned was actually the original. Okay. Simply, I rented it all the time and played it at friends. But really, it just came down to in my my Super NES and N64 days, I didn't have a job, so I basically had to count on birthdays or Christmas to get a game to keep, outside of saving up allowance for like Game Boy games. Yeah, Smash Brothers launched not during a birthday, and by the time Christmas came around, I was all about. I don't remember. Christmas 99, that was DK64.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, personal story over. Actually, I'll have another one for next one we're going to talk about. Here's my little thing my opening that I want to talk about, because now I know you've watched it as well, and it's certainly beginning. I guess we're a bit late to the party because it came out in January, but fuck it, I want to talk about it, and it's probably going to be the last time we talk about it. We've both watched Devilman Crybaby.
You're a man who possesses both the body of a devil as well as the heart of a human. Devilman will uncover crimes committed by devils who are now hiding as humans.
Yeah, we did.
And that is an experience. Something. That is an experience.
And you know what? I do have a few thoughts about it, but...
now, we can say them, but I'm going to say let's hold off on major spoilers because I honestly will probably pick it for a topic someday.
Sure. I can say that that of all the things that I did not like about Devilman Crybaby, I do not like the art, and that's. I
wish it looked more detailed. Yeah.
Well, there's that. I wish it was a little less spindly and a little less wild. I wish it was rendered with a little bit more polish. And I know
there's some scenes where there's groups of demons that just look like scribbles. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, that doesn't play well with me personally. I know that's I know that's how the director goes about his projects.
Yeah, he did like Mind Game and Ping Pong and a bunch of other.
Stuff. And that's all well and good. It didn't jive with me very well.
I got used to it eventually.
Yeah. In certain episodes when we started to get going, and I was kind of off and on the story in the beginning. The first opening scene had me. Like there was no. I was like, oh, good, religious in it.
The stuff at the club that ends the first episode.
Yeah, or even before the club, like when Satan is being like cast from heaven and thrown into earth, and like and then afterwards, let's see, Akira meets his friend for the first time.
Rio.
Yeah. Like they meet each other for the first time. Like that whole sequence is amazing, and I love that to death.
Yeah, but it's basically a pretty faithful adaptation. Because are you familiar with any previous versions of this? Because Devilman started as like a manga in like the 60s or 70s.
I do know that much. I didn't really pay much attention to Devilman.
I have a funny little story there. So because I'm still not really that familiar, but it was written by a guy called Go Nagai, who apparently is pretty iconic over there because he did that show Shing Mazinger, Cutie Honey, which is, I think that's also getting a remake this year. So my exposure to him, I haven't read the manga, but I tried watching Cutie Honey, which has some awesome art direction, but you know me and fan service, and it went overboard there. And have you heard of Violence Check?
Violence Check, that's a new one.
Okay, don't watch it. It's I don't know if the manga's any good, but the OVA is notorious for just violence and horrible things just for the sake of it. Like, it's not clever, it's not engaging, it's, hey, we're gonna have a bunch of people cut a kid's head off, and then we're gonna watch like a dozen guys rape a dozen women for like 2 minutes.
You know what? That's actually how I kind of felt with Devilman when I first saw it. Like, okay, beforehand, I kept hearing like a lot of kids were just like, a lot of kids watching it on Netflix were like, this is satanic and this is gross.
It is not for everybody. I actually, on Generation Animation Discord, Bianca, one of the co-hosts, just came on and said, don't watch Devilman.
Yeah. You know what? I watched it, and that first episode happened. Honestly, I grew up with End of Evangelion. I sat through the worst times of Berserk, and then I saw like the party scene at Devilman, and I was like, you guys could have done better than that.
That made me go, I'm in.
I mean, it was neat, it was cool, but I was actually kind of underwhelmed.
So I will say the one thing of Devilman that I've seen parts of, because there was a 70s TV show that was way toned down, including a happy ending, but there were also a bunch of OVAs that directly adapted key moments, and the first one adapts that party, but it's in much more detailed, like 80s style. So maybe you should check that part out.
I think I will. There were things about the OVA that you mentioned. I actually found the opening sequence.
Oh, that's right. You tweeted about it.
I did. I loved that sequence.
Yeah, it's trippy as hell, but it's mesmerizing.
Yeah, it's very mesmerizing. And there's like, just like the Crybaby opening, there's no narration. You have to figure it out for yourself. It doesn't exactly like hold your hand, but it's less abstract.
It might also, in the case of Japan, they're probably very familiar with the story by this point.
Yeah. And you know what? I kind of dug the beauty of the first OVA.
Yeah, it's still creepy and gory. We have women with boobs being bisected by big dinosaurs, but...
Yeah, I'm like, holy shit, this is great. It's pretty violent, but also like I'm kind of down.
Okay, seriously, look up that first OVA and skip to the party part.
I think I will. I'll do that a little later, though.
You were saying early on this show wasn't grab you, but without getting into spoilers, about halfway through something happens and everything changes. Honestly,
like the story takes a major turn by the time
in a good way.
In a very good way. I have to say, like, there are a couple parts that had my interest in the first, say, 3 or 4 episodes, but it didn't really.
I believe it's episode 6 where the game changer happens.
Yeah, the game changes happen, and now like the rules of the world have technically been turned on their head, and humanity has to kind of get used to these new rules that are laid before them.
And you see the chaos that causes.
Yeah.
The paranoia, the violence.
It's really messed up. But by that point, like, me and Serena were watching, and Serena wasn't feeling it at that point either, my wife. And by that episode, we were like, yeah, maybe they should have led with this episode because this is pretty fucking cool.
Well, the importance of that opening half is to get you invested in the characters because, yeah, again, we're not going to spoil anything, but you're going to feel... I'll admit, I was aware of, because years before this came out, I read about people complaining about, this is the first show to 100% adapt the manga's ending. Mm-hmm. And the others, like, in the case of the original show, they did a generic happy ending, because they probably couldn't get away with it with broadcast standards. Yeah. And the OVA, I think that series was canceled before it reached the finale, but it looked like they were going to get there. And then everything else, I think, has not. And so when I first heard they were doing this, I was really curious, like, are they gonna go there? And yes, they completely do, and it is brutal.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. You're not. It's sad, but it's like this was the right way to go because
it fits. It kind of makes sense about, like, even realistically today, you kind of feel like it makes sense that it would end up this way, as bleak as it is. Because I'm pretty sure that aspect of the original manga was. Certainly, you can get an allegorical sense of it here.
There was, I forget who tweeted this. One of the things that I like about anime in general is the way that they kind of use like religious subtext and religious imagery as sort of like this crazy allegory for how life.
I barely got the religious aspect of this. They do eventually touch on the existence of God and his involvement in this, but it's very minimal.
Yeah, it like, is a lot.
The demons in this, you don't even get the sense that it's like they're like from hell. It's just like they're this primordial force.
Yeah. So
you mentioned Satan. Satan is a part, but I will not say how.
Yeah. So there is a user on Twitter by the name of Art Eater, and he created this long thread that basically summarized his thoughts on Devilman Crybaby, but also he also allowed him to dissect the use of symbolism and how it works for Devilman Crybaby. And when I read that, I was like, this is exactly how I feel about this show. And when I saw some of the things that I actually missed, I was like, I need to go back and watch this. Because
for all the over-the-top violence and sex, like there's even like brief rape and stuff in this. This is, I ultimately feel it ends up being a show with a lot of substance to it.
Yeah.
And like what are some other things I wrote here? Look, okay. So, the second to last episode was, even knowing the fates of certain characters because I read the spoilers, that was the most roller coaster ride I've ever had with an anime episode. Like, it's just, by the time it ends, I think even the creators knew, like, that's the only episode that has, like, a unique credits song.
Yeah.
That, and this long, very peaceful acoustic thing, and I'm sure that was that was intentional choice to let viewers digest and cope with everything they'd just seen.
Yeah, and
the visual for it makes it even sadder because it's like a what could have been thing.
Yeah, it really is. It's really by the second to last episode, it gets really kind of rough. It's bad times.
Yeah, and I will say, because this show was only 10 episodes long, I thought the finale was great, but it felt a little rushed. I feel like it would have worked better as 2 episodes because it kind of divided in 2 halves, which is these final reveals, set everything up, and then the battle is the last half. And I would have loved more of both, really.
That's one thing I was not. That's one thing I got to give I really got to talk about the animation in that regard because that style of animation, which is really popular and really ambitious, and it's part of what the director does. Personally, it does not suit me, and because of that, I think it kind of hurt the final episode in that regard because a lot of things happen all at once.
I still love how over the top and just vivid it got, but I would have liked more detail.
Yeah,
would make what happened felt even more grand.
Yeah, I would like for a second just to give me a little bit of breathing room. Like I know that there's a lot of fast-paced action and this whole fight, like it's a giant fight. Like I'm not even playing around just how big it is.
It is literally globe spanning.
Yeah, but I would have still liked just a few breathers at some point just to get to just so I can get my bearings on what is happening and have a sense of why and how it's happening. That's it. I mean,
that said, they still wrap everything up pretty much.
If you're okay with crazy amounts of gore and lots of thumb nosing to cutesy poo religious standards that we kind of know and love.
I didn't get this vibe that it was anti-religion. Like I said, it doesn't feel like it's that much a part of it, but I feel like the story ends up functioning as an allegory for you could apply it to a lot of things. It's kind of about the dangers of generalization and paranoia. Ultimately,
that's true. Yeah, I'll give you that. That's something
that still is relevant today as it was back in the '60s or whenever.
So you know what? Yeah, I have to recommend Devilman Crybaby if you're able to handle a large load of violence and blood and gore and all that.
If you get to the end of the first episode and are like, throw more at me, then go for it. But also, it gets a lot heavier, and it gradually shifts to being less just amazingly entertaining violence, and to, if you get invested, it'll hit you. Like I'm not gonna lie, a couple days after I finished it, not only was I still thinking about it, I had nightmares about where that show went.
Yeah.
I can't remember the specifics, but I think it was like, I guess the idea was that I was involved in all that shit going down on the worldwide scale, and like, what a horrible thing to think about.
There were times when I was like, I'm not really quite feeling this show, but once it was done, I was still thinking about it. Like
you're going to be pondering a lot of stuff and I can only imagine like casual anime viewers on Netflix who have no idea where this series goes. They won't be prepared. Man, I can't say I can't go into details without spoiling, but the last scene with the parents and little brother.
Oh yeah,
that
was something. That
what was a situation.
Yeah, that was doubly painful for me. Part of some of my phobias. So I was just like, oh no, this is not good.
I actually don't know what phobia you're referring to in this case.
Oh, okay. I'll tell you after this.
Someday I will pick this show for a main topic, so we can go into spoilers and such. But we are actually at the point where we should. Do you have anything else you want to say about Devilman?
No, watch it. Watch it if you can handle it.
Yes,
it's cool.
If you can handle the first episode, watch it all the way through. It's one of my favorite things I've seen in years, honestly. I highly recommend it. But I will save and render now because we're about to talk about an anime we would recommend even more, I think.
Mm-hmm. My father took that picture from an airship. He loved to fly. It's Laputa, a floating island.
An island that floats in the sky?
Yep. Most people think it's just a legend, but my dad actually saw it.
So, this is going to be another one where I think it's not. It's also, this is cool. Like, it's going to be something that to me is on the same level as something like Iron Giant in terms of like, it's probably my favorite anime movie that I've seen. But here's the thing. Now, also, some long-term viewers might remember I brought up the ending to the movie we're talking about, which is full name Laputa Castle in the Sky, but known as Castle in the Sky over here because apparently La Puta in Spanish means like the whore or the bitch or something.
Jesus!
You know this?
No! Someone did not do their homework for localization. Jesus!
Well, I guess Ghibli didn't in this case. So we're talking about, we'll just call it Castle in the Sky from this point. But it is not the first feature film to come from the main Studio Ghibli team because they did Nausicaa before that. But it is the first. They did Nausicaa at some other studio, and then the success of that led them to start their own. And so this is the first officially under the Ghibli roof film. And I cannot imagine the kind of impact this had when it came out. Like, if people were hyped about Nausicaa, I'm sure they were like, I wish I could read Japanese so I could find, like, Bild magazines, people saying, like, keep an eye on this Miyazaki fella. He could make some more good stuff. And it was like,
he's got a long career ahead of him.
Not wrong either. But, so, I'm a little ashamed it's taken us this long to talk a Ghibli movie, honestly. That makes me sound like I'm ashamed of you as well. I apologize. But because we've got a lot about anime, and we were both huge cartoon nerds. And when it comes to like anime with worldwide appeal that you can show to people who don't give a shit about anime, it's the go-to because it's often just that wonderful.
Yeah.
And imaginative. And there are exceptions. Like I talked about showing stuff to my grandmother. This is the one anime movie I've shown her, and she loved it. But I still think I'll probably show her my other two favorites that I've seen are Porco Rosso and Howl's Moving Castle. And I think she would like those. But like as much as I like Spirited Away, that movie's a little too trippy, I think, for some people to like latch onto immediately. Some of them are more rooted than others in Japanese traditions and customs. But this, thankfully, is a pretty universal story and type of themes. So here's the thing, Chris, I originally talked about how the ending of this is one of my favorite emotional moments in cartoons on our previous episode, and you hadn't seen it. But last year, you guest starred on Generation Animation to talk Howl's Moving Castle, and I remember they had just watched Kiki's Delivery Service, and they asked you, what do you think of that? And you said, until I recently saw Castle in the Sky, it was my favorite Ghibli movie.
That's exactly right, yeah.
So I like to think I take some of the credit for encouraging you to watch it.
This is true, but not all the credit, because this was originally one of Rabbit's favorites Ghibli movies. And
Good taste, Serena. Good taste.
She just happened to have it, and we were just like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And holy shit.
Do you know if it's her favorite?
Rabbit, is Castle in the Sky your favorite Ghibli movie?
One of them, yeah.
Well, one of them. So I was right.
The consensus is universal or unanimous.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, of all the, I keep saying Ghibli, but I know it's Ghibli. It's just the way it's the way I say it. I've always say Ghibli, but whatever.
I kind of back and forth. I flip flop.
Yeah. So when it comes to like Ghibli movies, it's always the gigantic sprawling worlds that they create. They're so mystical and so alien and also very welcoming at the same time.
Yeah, there's still relatable aspects. Like this movie, I really feel like Miyazaki and his company, like they must have gained some confidence after Nausicaa, and we're like, we're gonna go full hog with this. Because if I would sum up the world of this, it's a mix of like early 1900s Europe villages, but also elements of steampunk and like sci-fi fantasy, and it's like in some of its technology, and especially the vehicles and the final city itself, Laputa.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, even with the people itself, like in any Ghibli movie, like all the characters, I don't want to say they're fun and goofy, but there's a very appealing aspect to them all.
Some of them are fun. We'll talk about the pirates, the Dole.
Yeah, we'll get to the pirates because they are clearly my favorite.
They're fucking awesome.
But there's a scene where the main character is running with, oh man, I forgot their names. I feel like
Patsu and Cheetah?
Yeah. So they're running through the streets, and like his mentor like stops him, and like he starts having like this weird.
We get a brawl of manliness, and at first it's just who can flex their muscles the best.
Manliness. Like they started like beefing up their chests, and like, oh man,
yeah,
it's
the
like
boss
Alex Louise
flexes so hard his shirt shreds, and his wife to the side goes, "I'm not fixing that for you." There's a lot of humor to this as well, and then the fact when it finally just escalates into a brawl, it's very Popeye and Bluto-ish.
Oh yeah, like the dust cloud.
It doesn't surprise me because I googled, because I also remember in Porco Rosso he's watching like an old Rubber Hose cartoon in the theater.
Well, remember I didn't see you to Porco Rosso, so you got
we'll do it someday. That's not a spoiler. It's a background guide, but apparently the Fleischer Brothers shorts were one of Miyazaki's big inspirations growing up.
Oh, nice.
So I'm sure this is kind of a tribute to that kind of over the top goofy fighting.
Nice. That's awesome. Okay.
But yeah, so I don't know where obviously if you'd listen to us, we are going to spoil a lot of this, including the end. And we'll just kind of go around whatever and just pop over to what we see of note, probably a bit non-linear. I will say that this is not the movie's fault, but have you ever noticed how many Japanese media, be it anime or like RPGs, use the plot point of this girl's pendant, this girl's necklace unlocks the blah, blah, blah?
Yep, the standard girls MacGuffin the trope. It's
I wish that wasn't.
Like, I was kind of expecting like, wait a minute, didn't this happen? Didn't like the boy character's like parents die or something, and like or like standard JRPG stuff?
Well, his dad is dead, but it was more because I do like Patsu's motivation. It's because this idea is that in this world. So Laputa, Castle in the Sky, basically the idea is it's, one of those movies where it's like there's a long lost ancient civilization with tremendous powers and, technology beyond what we have now.
Yeah. And
they seem to die out, and they were so powerful that like they couldn't just do airships. Their entire city, their kingdom was like a floating island that propowered itself. But it went missing, and its inhabitants like fled and were hard to find, which is certainly a plot point as it goes on. But the idea is that Patsu's dad spotted it in a windstorm once when he was traveling. He took like an obscured photo of it, but people thought he was crazy and he died considered, a loony. And that's Patsu's motivation. He just wants to prove, even ultimately to himself, that his dad was genuine.
Yeah.
He's not in it for glory. It's personal validation. I'm sure there's people can find something relatable in that.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of this recent anime film called Patama Inverted, which has a similar kind of concept.
I haven't heard of that.
It came out like 3 or 4 years ago. It's really gorgeous, but the main character in that film is his motivations are really similar to Patsu's in that regard.
Would you recommend it?
I do recommend watching it, actually.
I'll
like
look into it.
There are a lot of, I can let you borrow it one day, but there are a lot of,
Well, we'll talk about it another time.
well, what I'm trying to say is that the movie itself takes this weird, I don't want to say weird, but it takes this kind of neat approach of turning the world literally upside down and changing your perspective. And the way that they do it, it's a little disorienting at first, but as the movie goes on, you get really used to it, and it's actually really impressive.
Cool. But so talking more of the characters in this, I will say I probably think the least interesting character is Sheeta, the female lead. She's certainly sympathetic because, especially when you find out, like, she was just living she had been growing up with a normal farm life, and now she was the only one tending to it. And then the government being nasty, they just show up and take her because they tracked down her heritage. But she just doesn't really have that many standout moments on her own. Typically, it's stuff that involves like other characters kind of bouncing off her.
There is a lot of her being kidnapped and being chased after.
Yeah, going, oh no, Batsu.
Yeah, I kind of wish there was less of that. But,
well, she has a cool moment towards the end. We'll get to it.
Yes,
but yes. Oh no, and a few other moments, like she adapts to the pirate life so well. One of my favorite little jokes is when Dole is first giving a tutorial from like another room. All right, so look, if the weather gets bad, you have to talk to me on the phone. Immediately the phone calls, and she, you mean this phone?
Mm-hmm. Yep, and she's really good at it.
Yep, even the pirates, even the sons are like, man, she gets good.
Oh man, I want to talk about the pirates so bad. But before we do, I want to at least chat about fucking Mark Hamill.
Muska.
I
told you he was great in this. I told you.
He really is. And I'm not... Ghibli films have always been kind of hit or miss for me in terms of an actual villain. Like, I really dug Yubaba and No Face from Spirited Away.
Yeah.
But after one or two scenes, like, they're quickly dispatched. And
well, here's the thing. Ghibli doesn't like... I mean, like, they typically don't like to do villains that are just straight-up irredeemable monsters.
Yeah,
they often turn.
That.
Even, like, that's the Mononoke villains as well, and even House.
Yeah,
Muska,
I've noticed that.
No chance of that.
No.
It's a gradual build-up, like, because the idea is he's introduced early on. He's a government agent who is very, well versed and has researched a lot of Laputan history, and you sort of get the sense that he's cocky, he's smarmy, and everything he says that's meant that he's trying to be encouraging to Sheeta is so disingenuous. But the movie does not spill up to. We'll get to the end, but like when he lets loose, and I realize. Mark Hamill's great both as the smarmy and as when he gets full power hungry, but he's doing the Joker laugh for the last 10 minutes of this movie.
He really does.
Not the high-pitched part, but the low... that was terrible.
A superior being such as myself has only one option. Burn them. Don't you agree, Princess Lushita?
And what I like about this particular Ghibli movie is that even though I know that Ghibli villains, they go about a change of heart towards the end of the film. There's always this weird kind of pacing issue where it just kind of happens, and it was my issue with Mononoke. Mm-hmm. Where after the forest spirit is doing its thing, everybody's like, okay, movie's over. And I was like, okay.
That's a problem a lot of people have with Howls. Like, oh, the prince is back. Let's end the war.
Yeah. It's not my favorite thing in the world. But here in Castle of the Sky, even though Mark Hamill's playing a very hand-wringing, the mustache twirling, even though he doesn't have a mustache, kind of cliched villain, where he's very focused on one particular goal and he's going to get it no matter what, and there's no real impetus for him to change. It's still a very threatening and intimidating role, and his performance is amazing.
Yeah, I told you by the end when he double crosses the military, it's terrifying. Like, you get a montage. It's both the robots coming to life and slaughtering them while he's still doing that laughter in the background. It's just holy shit.
Yeah, and the way that he kind of just like slowly comes after
as the hologram.
Oh man,
he's gone full Bond villain.
It's very effective, I think. Like,
we'll talk more about the ending in a bit, but there's some other characters. Okay, but really brief thing. So Serena had seen this before, I'm guessing.
Yes, she has.
When you got to the villain introduction and we got the only time Jim Cummings has ever been an anime character, did you guys say anything?
Oh, she definitely rolled her eyes.
Okay. He really fits this role too, though. It's a very smaller one-note thing, but...
It really is, but it'll still...
If my military tactics had been used to begin with, Dola wouldn't have had a chance to interfere with us at all.
It was a military transmission that the pirates decoded. You've bungled things, sir, and now I must fix them.
Like, the thing about this movie is that I like so much about it is that the characters are so they're so rounded to a point where you kind of understand where they're coming from, and the story kind of allows them space to move in that direction without rushing it towards the end.
Yeah, the general serves his purpose, and you do get the sense by the end he was in over his head without realizing it. Mm-hmm. They all were.
Can we talk about the pirates now?
Let's talk the Dola Gang.
Oh man, I love Dola Gang so fucking
Aren't
much.
they awesome?
Oh man, they're so cool and goofy and stupid. I love them.
Yep, through the whole movie, it doesn't feel out of place either. When the moments it cuts back to them doing something funny, it still feels. I want to say, like, one of the things I love about this most in just terms of general structure. We'll get back to the Dola Gang, but this feels like a perfectly structured and paced, like, epic journey. It knows the right moments to ramp up the action and give you crazy visual spectacle, but it also knows the right moments to take a breather, and the characters learn more about each other, or you get some amazing scenery to soak in.
There are a couple throwaway scenes that I could have done without, honestly, but I don't want to throw them away because there's one particular point when the pirates are like, they're going to bring the kids on their ship, and they're like, yay, it's going to be a great time. And there's one pirate in particular, who's like, he's just in one shot. And he goes and he pans from the right side of the screen to the left side of the screen, and he's like, "I wanted some of those chocolates." No, wait, they're little tiny special chocolates that I'll never have, and you never see him again.
Sheena, can you make pudding? I love pudding. I get to lick the spatula.
And I like chocolate cake with that. Oh, what's that frosting? It's kind of pink and swirly.
Will you shut up? Ah, what can I tell you? They just really like dessert.
One of my favorites is when they take Patu the first time, and when they're just on the side of the screen, Patu loves Sheeta. It's like, shut up!
It is such. Oh man!
And props to Cloris Leachman, who voiced Dola.
Oh really? Wow. Okay.
She is still alive and acting. She's in her 90s now.
Yeah. Wow.
So she was probably in like her late 70s during this, and she just goes for it.
She knocked it out the park because I loved her.
She's a wonderful choice for this. The fact that she's an older woman, but you couldn't tell by how way she acts and moves, and just so commanding.
And they're also inviting too. Like, you get the sense that they're in this war for their own reasons, but you can still kind of get behind them to some degree.
That's the thing. The first actors, so they are for the villains for the time being. And in any other movie, you feel like they would probably just be shoved into the background after a certain point, but. Just another great point, because, Sheeta's captured, and, Patu's, there's another quiet moment of him, slowly walking home. They just put some coins in his hand and say, all right, go on, and he just, crestfallen. And it caught me off guard the first time I watched it. He opens the door, and they just pull him right in, because they figure out where he is. And Dola calls him out. You didn't stick up for her. They gave you money, and you took it. And you start to realize these guys have some more honor than we expected.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really kind of touching, honestly. And I like... I like the discovery of the floating island itself, where it's so. I gotta say that the one thing I really dislike about modern day storytelling and filmmaking in general, pet peeves, is that you don't really have a lot of time to really take in your surroundings.
That's what I'm saying. Stop and breathe. Stop and smell the roses.
Yeah.
Establish.
There's a lot of movies that are doing that more nowadays. I just recently saw Annihilation, and that you get a sense that, when Natalie Portman walks into this strange otherworldly kind of force, that it's a whole nother world. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are like, well, it's not action packed, it's not fast, and it's very slow. And I'm like, the world doesn't always move slow. The world doesn't always move fast and explosive. sometimes you have to get a sense of where you are, not even as a viewer, but as a person.
I feel like that's something Ghibli still does, is just great establishing moments.
Yeah.
That cute opening, because one of Patsu's jobs is to do like the morning bugle wake up.
Yeah.
Just this great little tune. You see these doves fly across, you get this big shot of his hometown.
Mm-hmm.
And then a scene, like, because he's basically like the equivalent of a coal miner with these other, down and dirty guys.
Yeah.
Just
and
good stuff.
It's very simple. It's a very simple way of going about like introducing the world to the viewer, but it's also a great way to introduce characters to new situations. And when I saw like the floating island, I was like, this is what they were waiting for. This is what they've been fighting so hard for,
and it lived up to it.
And it lived up to it, and it's beautiful, but also kind of dangerous. It's
only dangerous when other people show up to start manipulating again, because you get that like 5 or 6 minutes where they find the robot, and it's just a caretaker. It's got these animals, it's gardening, and they also realize like there were ones before it that shut down, and like they keep inheriting the roles of other robots.
Yeah, and it's so alien, but it's also kind of sad at the same time. There are a lot of emotions that you can glean from this one place, because it's so, number one, it's so old, it's so far away, it's so magical that you can't, and magical is not the right word for it, but there's an element of mysticism that kind of wants you to it makes you want to figure out more of it. And that's one of the staples of Ghibli's movies that I found so endearing, is that these things are, let's be honest, a lot of shit that happens in Ghibli, they're weird as fuck.
Oh, yeah, especially Spirited Away. That's why I was saying I wouldn't show it to everyone.
Yeah.
Or Mononoke as well.
Well, you still want to find out more about these worlds. Like, even though they're super strange and super foreign to everything that you kind of know. Holy shit, there's a forest with giant boars that call themselves gods?
Yep.
I don't want anything to do with that. But the way that the movie kind of brings you into that, it kind of shows you the beautiful side, the deadly side.
Like of the Ghibli movies that have imaginative worlds, this is still the most this is technically the most grounded one.
It is. It definitely is. Even though there's a floating island in the sky, it's the most grounded. But
it's very low on stuff that makes you go, wait, what?
Yeah, it's very low on that.
And if there is, they typically explain it later.
Yeah, Castle in the Sky is probably the least offender of hit you with left field shit in any Ghibli movie that I've seen. Mm-hmm. And it's really well balanced, and I like it a lot. It's my favorite one.
Well, we still got time to talk about some more. Let me just go through. If you want to have anything you want to say, because I have some notes, but are there any other topics you want to bring up?
Well, there was one part where I felt like really fucking sad.
Is it during the end, or is it?
It's actually in the middle.
The robot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just doing its duty.
Yeah, he was just doing his job, man.
It even took Sheeta too long to realize, because she thinks he's going to laser it, but then he sticks out a palm, and that if he had a voice box, he would be going, "My lady."
He was like a very kind.
And then it goes Iron Giant. He's carrying her for protection and just shooting all over the place.
Yeah, it's oh man, it's very sad.
Yeah, she's sad for it by the time it dies. And we are too. We've known it for like 5 minutes, but you ultimately he wasn't really doing anything wrong.
And it's such a giant precursor to like how things are going to shape up. Like this is whatever secrets are hidden within this world. They are powerful. They're ancient, but they're fading.
But they're still dangerous.
They're still dangerous, but there's a sense that with the military and Mark Hamill's character, they're only in this thing for the immediate now. They're only in this thing because they see it as a danger, they see it for profit, they see it for their own self-interest. And
the pirates want the treasure, and the military wants the treasure and the weapons, and Muska just wants the weapons and utter control.
Yeah, but the power of the power and the history of Castle in the Sky, the actual Castle in the Sky, and all the ultra powerful technology and riches and other worldly things that come with it. like they're not going to last. Like even the castle itself is like,
well,
it's starting to.
Cheetah's speech at the end sums it up. But we'll get to the last act in a bit because I do want to go. I told you like how much I love like this whole movie, but you gotta love a movie that starts out great and just keeps getting better as it goes on.
It definitely does.
And Exhibit A, Castle in the Sky. I'm trying to see. Okay, one other thing I thought was a little funny, just character design wise. Dola's husband, who you see a little bit, aka Dr. Eggman. Mm-hmm. But I also realized they kind of recycled his design in Spirited Away for the boiler spider person. They
totally do. And
it makes me wonder if there's some sort of like old Japanese, art, like folklore character who looks like that.
Oh, that's actually a good point. Yeah.
But also, Sega could have just been inspired by them.
Yeah, it could have been them just being like, hey, remember Castle in the Sky, kid?
Yeah, and it's also kind of like how the Triforce in Zelda is actually some sort of sacred symbol in Japanese like folklore, history, or culture. Mm-hmm. And how Star Fox is inspired by some like sacred animals in culture.
I actually did not know that. That's new to me.
Yeah, look up some of Miyamoto's inspirations. Like, he got the idea from Zelda from exploring caves as a kid. Mm-hmm. And he got the idea for Pikmin because he likes a garden.
Yeah, he was just like, messing around in a garden one day and he saw some ants.
And not him, but the creator of Pokemon got the idea. He saw the Game Boy Link cable and imagined a bug traveling across it. And it was like, well, how could people trade the bugs? Mm-hmm. But back to this movie. I will say, you talked about scenes that they could cut. And I have a big one, but at the same time, it's like, when I think about it, it's unpleasant, but the actual delivery is so good. When the pirate sons clearly have the hots for Sheeta.
Yeah, that's mine. That's mine.
I'm like, Miyazaki, you're the last guy supposed to go into this territory. But they don't deliver it in a pervy, horrifying way. It's pretty freaking funny. I just wish they weren't clearly like a decade older.
Yeah, the way that it's handled isn't done in a way where it's like,
Yeah, it could have been way worse. It's just when you stop and think about it.
Yeah, it's not done in a way where it's like modern day anime where it's like, we got to see the boob shit.
God, what do you want to bet there's a doujinshi about a what if with that scene?
I don't want to think about
No,
that.
I don't want to either. but it's funny because like it is kind of cute how like one of them is like, oh man, I'm gonna be the first. I'm gonna make a good impression on her. And there's already like two brothers in there. And after he walks in, two others walk in. I love you. Oh wait, what are you doing here? And by the end, there's like six of them just crowded around.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those moments where like, yeah, you guys are all assholes.
They're lovable assholes.
They are. Just keep your hands to yourself. That's fine.
They do. I'll give them credit. They don't get any weird approaches later on. If this movie was made today, I'm sure they would.
Yeah. I was actually pretty thankful for that because
an interesting thing you talked about. You talked about hit or miss with the villains. This is actually with Ghibli fans. The casting of Patsu and Cheetah is kind of divisive. So they were voiced by Patsu was James Vanderbeek from Dawson's Creek. Cheetah was Anna Paquin, Rogue. I will admit, I didn't like how she would have an accent every 20 minutes, then go back to just being American. I was like, either do it or don't. I thought their acting was fine. Here's the thing. If you watch the original, Patsu and Cheetah has a higher pitched voice, and Patsu's also voiced by a woman. They are meant to be like preteens, probably 12 at most. But with those voices, you're immediately like, no, these are teens. Yeah. And some people took offense with that because like that wasn't the intention. Mm-hmm. Which I can understand, but I haven't watched it in the original. But here's the other thing, and you probably weren't aware of this, and I don't know which version you watched. Depending on which version you watched, there are different soundtracks.
Really?
Now, was the one you listened to, do you remember if it had like electronic sounding music or an orchestra?
Mine had an orchestra.
Okay, yeah. See, do you know who Joe Hisaishi is?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, for those who don't know, he is Ghibli's main music man, and he's a wonderful composer. He's done other anime too. One of my favorites that I know you like is Robot Carnival. He did most of the music for that. So when this was early in the career, so he used the synth stuff that was big in the 80s everywhere, but also was easier for lower budgets. And he switched to orchestrated stuff like immediately after that. And apparently he kind of looked on that with regret. So he pulled a George Lucas, and when this movie was originally localized by Disney, because it came out in the 80s in Japan, but here it came out like the early 2000s, he went and totally redid the score, like the same basic tunes, but with a full orchestra. And here's the interesting thing. When I first saw it on DVD, it had the orchestra. Recently, I bought the Blu-ray because I was like, this is a wonderful looking movie. I'd love to see it in HD. For whatever reason, they put the synth score back in, even on the dub. And so I immediately went, fuck this. And I'm not going to lie, I BitTorrented a version of the dub with... if I'm going to jail for it, I don't care. It was worth it because
that's awesome.
I think now we can talk about the last act. I'm just going to say that last everything falling apart climactic scene. You know, there's that amazing choir in the background.
Yeah,
it cuts out halfway through in the original.
I didn't know
the
that.
music is not as big, and the choir just stops, and it's just the rumbling sounds for half a minute, and it is nowhere near as impactful. And it's the best part of the movie, so that's my biggest reason. But also, I do feel like if you have the synth stuff and more quirky, small stuff animated from the 80s, that's fine. Robot Carnival is awesome, but it's quirky, and it's kind of a cult film. This is Ghibli. This is premium, and it just makes more sense to have something more professional sounding. So,
I agree with you.
Yep. But I mean, it is kind of fun. Like, that's what people, whichever version you've seen, try seeking out the other and just doing some personal comparisons.
Yeah.
It's going to be kind of fun to do. And I think they also, an issue people have with the orchestra version is, I think they besides the ending I talked about, they added music to some scenes where they originally didn't have any.
Okay.
Which I'm sure that can be divisive. But okay, let's talk about that ending. Yeah, so the last act of this movie, from when they land on Laputa, and actually the whole part where they're riding to him with like the clouds and those like dragon-shaped lightning, also fucking amazing. Everything in the pirate ship is great too. But from when they land and, you know, the military invades to the ending is one of my favorite parts of any film.
Yeah.
It is so legitimately intense and engaging, and by the time you're so invested in these characters in this story already, and shit hits the fan in a big way, like
it does.
Bigger than even all characters but one could have imagined, because I love the fact that, like, man, by the end, Muska was literally serving no one but himself, because he has these two guys with him the whole movie, those tuxedo and bowler hat guys.
Yeah.
And like he has like, okay, come off with me, and so you're starting to see the general even has a line like, oh, Colonel Muska shows his true colors at last. But halfway to the, you know, inner chamber, he has Cheetah in the two guys, and he tells them, wait here. And then later, when he unleashes everything, you see them fall to the abyss.
Yeah.
Like, he told no one about this. And I love, oh man, it's another chilling part when, you know, he goes to the core and pulls out that, he sees the plaque that controls everything, and he starts reading this. And there's this quiet part, like, Cheetah's just standing really quietly. She just goes, who are you, Muska? Like, she's finally piecing together. It's coming off as like, there's something he's hiding from everyone. And then he drops the bombshell. Yeah, I'm also a descendant of the ancestors. I also control this. And woof.
Yeah. Yeah, it's heavy stuff. It's
like,
really
it becomes chilling. Like, he's like, he calls all the military guys and demonstrates power, and basically does the equivalent of a nuke.
Yeah,
like into the ocean, and you realize they can just do as many of these as he want, and then he unleashes the robots and slaughters them, combined with Mark Hamill's maniacal laughter. Also in this climax, it stuck out to me, he decks Cheetah like hard twice.
Yeah, he does.
Like it's animated way, like he put force into that. Like this guy is, if you were convinced this guy is an utter bastard here.
Yeah.
And another thing I love is on the side, Patsu is, you know, he's separating. In fact, for most of the climax, he is on his own, encountering a bunch of this. There are so many points where he's close to falling to his death. And every time he was like,
I felt that too. I was like, oh, okay. Oh,
yeah.
maybe
he's on the vine, and it starts to fall off, and he has to like jump, like shit. And what's the other part? Oh, I did notice, I don't know if you noticed this, in one of the last parts when he finally gets to the interior, there's just one shot of him like vertically climbing all these things, and the camera pans with him. And it's like one of the best animated character shot in the whole movie. Like, I want to make a GIF of it. It looks tremendous.
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder if they knew, I wonder if the staff knew, like, everybody's going to be super invested by this point. Let's pull out all the stops. And another thing I noticed, this kind of inverts the ramp, like the escalation of a lot of movie climaxes, because the final showdown becomes a lot more subdued. When you get to the point where it's just Patsu, Cheetah, and Muska, there's next to no music, and it's all dialogue. And so we get the point where, so we mentioned the, you know, the necklace pendant. It's basically like the ignition key to all this thing. The main crystal won't work if they're not holding it in their hand.
Yeah.
And she manages to grab it and get decked, but she runs away, and Muska's still being creepy. He's just walking at her and doing that laugh because he's pointing out to you, what do you think you're doing? There's nowhere to run.
Yeah.
I'm going to catch up to you eventually. So what happens is, so the pirates do get away. I think Patsu gives him some stuff to escape. And so he gets to, this is the part we talked about, where, so Muska starts shooting at her, at Cheetah, and she shoots off both her pigtails first, which Dolo is very sad about by the end. And then he goes, your ears are next unless you get on your knees and obey me. Like, just being a real creep. Because he also says, like, you better get used to me. We're going to be staying together for a long time. Which I was like, is he going to repopulate the Laputan bloodline with her?
Yeah.
That's intentionally creepy.
Yeah, he had some plans.
Thankfully, he did not get that far. But so Cheetah delivers that. This is where like she drives the moral of all this home, because like preface, it's well known by now. Miyazaki is a super pacifist environmentalist, and these are constant themes in a lot of it. That's Mononoke. That's the part in Spirited Away with the slimy monster because it's pollution. Like a lot of stuff like that. Oh, and House Moving Castle, talking about how stupid the war is. And The Wind Rises, because people, when that was announced, were like, what, he's going to glorify the guy who made the planes? He's like, no, it's because the guy didn't like that he was for war. But Sheeta delivers that speech. She talks about this old poem in Laputa. It's kind of like,
now I understand why the people of Laputa vanished. There is a song from my home in the Valley of Gondua that explains everything. It says, take root in the ground, live in harmony with the wind, plant your seeds in the winter, and rejoice with the birds in the coming of spring. No matter how many weapons you have, no matter how great your technology might be, the world cannot live without love.
Mm-hmm. It's just a big warning. Like, don't get so caught up in your power. Don't get so caught up in destructive, power-hungry tendencies because it'll destroy you. And of course, that's when Muska shows he's not swaying. He's been saying like, I'm going to revive Laputa. He has a great line like, this Laputa is the dream of all mankind. Like, this is everything to him, but in the worst way.
Yeah.
And then Patu shows up, and we get the big thing where, because it was a kind of Chekhov's gun, because earlier Sheeta had mentioned some of the spells she was taught by her grandmother. Like, there are verbal commands that Laputa could say, and one of them was the spell of destruction, which would cause everything in the vicinity to fall apart.
Yeah, and it's pretty sad. Like,
because like this is so, Patu gets like, I have this jewel. Give me 1 minute with Cheetah, and then you can have it. And Muska, his fatal mistake, is letting that happen. And Patu says, "All right, I have it. Listen, whisper the spell to me, and we'll say it together. We'll hold the crystal. Dolo got away. Don't worry about the pirates." And she starts tearing up. This is what I'm talking about. Like, they are well aware this is almost certainly going to kill them.
Yeah.
And this is what, get that music kicks in, and you see Muska start to be confused at first, like, what are they doing? And then they say it, and wow.
Yeah, and they don't want it to happen, but, it's their last resort.
It is the only, they don't stand a chance against Muska just on their own. He's the one pointing a gun at them. And, that sad but epic choral music. Oh, man, Muska's defeat is so satisfying, where first he's blinded by the light, and his last part is just this sad blobbing around, and, Mark Hamill screeching, "My eyes, I can't see!" And then you realize
I laughed so hard at that, actually.
Oh, it's so satisfying, though.
I was like, you son of a bitch.
Yep, and then his last shot where he realized he fell off, or he got crushed by some debris. Like, he just kept, going off him, going, no! Like, falling to his death. Totally got what he deserved. And but you also see the robots getting, pummeled, which, yes, he was demanding them to destroy the army airship earlier, but still, we know these guys were by nature good guys, but this kind of had to happen. And this is what I talked about even after that. Like, the first time I saw this, I was sobbing because I legit thought Patsu and Sheeta had died. And now what it shows is they actually wake up caught in the roots of the kingdom, because it's still, there's a big tree at its center. And they're able to find the glider that came in on an escape. And there's another this is less sad and more bittersweet, where there's no dialogue for a minute. It's just alternating back and forth between Patsu and she just staring at the kingdom going away, because it starts to automatically rise so high nobody will ever be able to reach it again.
Yeah.
And just this solemn look, Patsu, he's going through his eyes, going through his mind, like, that's it.
Yeah.
But I did it. I proved it to myself, and then they get the gold game back, and they were able to nab some treasure. So you get the sense that they're all going to be pretty well off. And my only one complaint is that it ends there, and I would have loved to see what Patsu and Cheetah did afterward. But they did kind of spell out earlier. They said Patsu can probably never go back to his hometown, but because the military is aware of him. But they can find another spot to settle down and raise that farm together. Like Cheetah was originally doing. So it was a happy ending for them and the world. And of course, you see at the end that caretaker robot gets to keep his animals.
Yeah.
And then that last long credit, the entire credit is just that painting of Laputa and the stratosphere. Yeah. And the sun goes on that beautiful song. What a film. What a film.
There are so many things about Castle in the Sky that on every Ghibli movie has these things that Castle in the Sky has. And to some degrees better. But I think Castle in the Sky makes them merge best.
And it's just, it does it so consistently. Like, it just keeps throwing one wonderful thing at you after another.
Yeah.
We didn't even touch on a lot of the funny parts, like some of the wordplay early on, like when the sons are trying to look professional, like, go tell your mother, she's in disguise. Oh, she's in disguise. Go tell my mother.
Yeah.
Such dummies.
God. It's such a good film.
Or other, like, smaller characters from the start, like that kind of dopey train conductor, like, oh, the armies are here.
I miss that guy.
Yeah. Or my favorite, Uncle Palm, that old miner who just, you get the sense he spends his whole life wandering the mines, and he's so in tune with how everything down there works. And that amazing scene where he talks about, showing how the rocks light up and talking about the powers of the crystal. And he's so sensitive to it that he's like, he put that crystal away. It's too strong for me. Like,
you know what? I actually thought that scene was really sad, and I felt really, and I felt a certain way about that, because I was like, that's obviously like the cool down point from the train sequence and how hectic and crazy that was.
To the military base stuff.
Yeah, and it's giving you a chance to really take in what's happening and what else could happen in this movie.
Right.
But seeing that poor old man just go, it's too strong for me. I'm like, God damn it.
He's not always like that. It's just, I think he says, like, he's never seen something like that. It's not like he spent his whole life going, these rocks are too strong, but it just shows how
I'm not saying that. Just when he said that, just when he was like, it's just,
it was some good voice acting, and apparently his actor died a few years ago.
Yeah, that's even more sad.
I hope Cloris Leachman can stick around for another 10 years or so. Who knows?
Yeah.
I literally just read an article. I was Googling her. Apparently she's still kind of a party animal at celebrity parties.
That's awesome.
I also read one of her more recent movies was The Oogie Loves. Mm-hmm. Don't look at that trailer. It's a clusterfuck. And it was a horrible movie. But she said, I'm at a point where if they just offer me a role, I'll take it.
Ah, cool.
I mean, she's got carte blanche at this point.
I guess she's happy to do it.
She's happy to work. I can't fault her for that.
Yeah, but that scene with the old man was just like, something about it like really connected with me. I was like, no.
I think it's another cool part of world building, like showing how certain people can, like, how the nature elements of this work in terms of rock and crystal, and how certain people can be so, invested in them.
Yeah.
Such a cool little I wouldn't have minded more scenes with that guy, honestly, but we have to leave the townspeople behind after the first act.
Yeah, same. It was a good film. Really good.
I dare say it's a fantastic film.
Mm-hmm. I think so too.
If it's your favorite Ghibli film, I hope you would say it's more than good.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of overwhelmed with emotion right now.
Okay.
Where it's, as you can tell, I'm struggling to find the words to actually, to define this correctly, because I like it so much. I also have a habit of trying to play down my excitement too, because I realize that when other people watch a film, they may not feel the same things that I feel. So I don't want to say that this is completely amazing.
We need to someday do a Roger Rabbit episode, because you said that's your favorite movie.
It is my favorite movie.
I feel like that would be an episode where you get to let loose, like I did with Iron Giant.
Yeah, but I mean, at least I can back it up with a few more objective facts about the film itself.
Yeah, I guess you probably don't know as much about this as you do Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, but when I look at Castle in the Sky, I mean, it hit me in the feels in a lot of ways.
It really does. It's a powerful film. It's a funny film. It's exciting. It's emotional. It's thought provoking. It's imaginative. This kind of ticks the box of everything you want from a Ghibli movie, at least in my book.
Yeah, I think so too.
And like I said, I was saying earlier, I would love to see like some translations. Like, what was the initial reaction in Japan like when this first came out?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this must have been one of those cases where, like, we've had directors over here, both animated and live action, who people like their first one, and then they do something else that just knocks it out of the park in terms of people's love for it. And I'm wondering, this was when people were like, I hope this Miyazaki fella is here to stay, and thankfully he has been. Yeah,
after watching this, it really made me sit down and watch Nausicaa of the Blue Wind, which I haven't seen either.
I have actually, I got people upset at me when I say I haven't seen Nausicaa, I haven't seen Kiki's, which I now know is your second favorite. I haven't seen Totoro, and I haven't seen Ponyo.
Yeah.
I've heard more mixed things about Ponyo, but I still want to watch it.
Yeah, I've heard mixed things about Ponyo as well. I actually saw it in theaters, and I had a good time.
I get the sense it's more targeted at kids than most of his work.
Well, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I also think that the narrative isn't quite as clear as it could have been.
Yeah, well, maybe, I'm sure, I'm willing to bet we'll talk more Ghibli films another day.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm definitely sure we will. It'll be fun stuff.
Yeah, because Have you seen any of the Ghibli films that he didn't direct? Because I've seen 2.
I haven't actually.
I saw Secret World of Arrietty.
Oh, I did see that one actually.
He just wrote that. That was good.
Yeah.
But I also saw Whisper of the Heart.
I did not see that one.
That one I think is legit fantastic, and I will give one criticism that it's one of those that didn't really need to be animated, save a few fantasy sequences. Mm-hmm. But, Ghibli's artistry is so great that, it's hard to complain. Yeah. But the tragic thing is that it was directed by this one guy who I think he did one other movie or something, and apparently he was being seen by Miyazaki as this guy's going to be the heir. Like after I retire or die, he's going to be head. And then that guy died of exhaustion in his 40s.
God damn it!
We were talking about Sakurai earlier. They think, yeah.
Wow.
No, for my money, nothing is more tragic than Satoshi Kon dying.
Yeah, that was a bad.
We're going to talk. I met that guy.
That was a big loss to the anime community. I still want to see his.
We'll talk to them someday. Almost all of his stuff I think is phenomenal, and
I still want to see the movie that he was actually that he was working on before he passed. What was it
I hope that comes out someday. I would love to see it. It sounded so cool.
Yeah.
Just the idea of seeing one more new Satoshi Kon movie, and I met him. Like a decade ago, when Paprika was first coming out, they did an early subtitle screening at some DC museum, and he was there for a Q&A, and I got to ask him about, doing a TV show like Paranoid Agent. That's how I discovered him, when they played on Adult Swim.
Uh-huh.
And such a suave guy, too. Like, not many Japanese men you see pulling off a full goatee and ponytail, but he did it.
What did he say?
I had asked him if he would ever be encouraged to do a show again because I thought it was fantastic. And he explained the reason he was motivated to make Paranoid Agent, the reason why it was so many individual stories combined, was he had a bunch of ideas that he never made into films, and he wanted to make a connective tissue to them. And so he said, give me another decade or so, and if I have enough ideas, I'll probably try and make another. But
damn it!
yeah, we were robbed. We were all robbed. We'll talk Satoshi Kon another day, but at least Miyazaki is
still
I'm
around.
If that guy will outlive us all, honestly.
So there's this... like on Twitter, there was like a whole bunch of these Miyazaki stories about things that went on at Studio Ghibli. Like there was one story about how this one animator kept coming in late, and I think either Miyazaki or another artist drew a picture of that artist getting fired, and that animator was like sweating bullets and like sat at his desk and just worked the entire day and was like super fucking scared. But there's one particular story where Miyazaki and it's probably like exchanged mouths. It's probably the truth is probably much further than this story. But the story goes is that there is a fire like a couple blocks away from Studio Ghibli, and let's see, Miyazaki gets wind of it later. And he manages to get a good view of the fire at some point. And then he's like, I wish Studio Ghibli would catch on fire. Or something really crazy to that.
Why the fuck would he want that?
I don't know. But like I said...
Because he is not tired, clearly.
The truth is probably much further away from
I know there's still bitterness
story.
In some aspects. Like I've read he's convinced that mankind is short time doomed. I think he has a very cynical worldview.
Oh, totally. Like, isn't he like a war child or something?
I don't know much about his childhood and upbringing, so I'd have to check that. I will say this, because this has been a meme, that gif of him saying anime was a mistake, it's nothing but trash. Mm-hmm. That is not real.
No, I know. Yeah,
but not everybody knows that. People think that's a real thing he said. No, that was from some documentary about him. Somebody made up that subtitle. Miyazaki never said that, at least in public.
Yeah, he's talking about the otaku.
He is very critical of that, and good on him, because I certainly am as well. But I don't think he's gone so far as to say anime in general was a mistake.
Yeah, I think he has.
I think he's more just looking at everybody and saying you can do better.
Yeah, I think he has certain grievances with.
If anybody has the right to say that, it's him.
Yeah, I think he has certain grievances with the anime industry as a whole. I mean, if anyone's going to, it might as well be him.
And I talked about how critical Brad Bird has been for decades, Western animation, saying you could do better, and he's right.
Yeah, totally.
It's often the best guys who are the most outspoken.
Mm-hmm. Now, wow. Apparently, he what? Let's see. I'm looking at it. But yeah, it looks like he was a war child. It was like looking at the wiki page right now. when he was 3 years old, his family was evacuated to Utsunomiya after the bombing of Utsunomiya in July 1945. Wow.
Oh, that's the tail end of the war, too.
Yeah, Jesus.
Kind of reminds me of about Barefoot Gen?
Who?
The anime and manga Barefoot Gen.
Oh, I've heard of that, but I don't know.
Oh, man. I don't think we're ever going to talk about it, but it was written by a guy who actually was in the middle of and miraculously survived Hiroshima.
Jesus.
And so he made it his mission to devote, publicize like never again. And so both the manga and anime devote a whole scene to watching people like melting when the bomb hits. God, it's one of the goriest, most disturbing things.
I did see that. Never mind. I saw that. That's a really famous sequence too.
Yeah. Oh, it's on YouTube, isolated. I don't recommend watching it if you want to sleep well.
Yeah, it's Jesus. It's horrifying.
Probably the most effective way to show, hey, don't use nukes.
Yeah, don't use this. Like a lot of people are like, yeah, war is a great thing. I'm like, maybe we should listen to people who actually went through war, who are actual children of war.
On a personal note, talked about Mimi a lot. My grandma, she had a brother who fought in World War II and lost his life to a kamikaze pilot.
Wow, that's insane.
Thankfully, she's not the type to hold a grudge.
Cool.
Though crazy side story about that, because my grandfather, her husband, did serve there as a flight surgeon because he was a doctor in life. Apparently, a year or two ago, she was going through their attic because he died years ago. She found a Japanese skull. The jawbone was missing, but I think she was able to take it to some analyst to figure out it was a Japanese skull, and she thinks my grandfather or somebody else kept it as a trophy.
Wow.
She got it sent somewhere like to a Japanese embassy or something because she was like, give it a proper, the proper respects.
Wow.
Yeah, that's heavy.
That's a badass story. Jesus.
Badass grandma.
Yeah.
No, if anybody's a badass grandma, it's Dola.
Uh-huh.
So, but I think we can probably bring things to a close on that note.
Yeah.
What a story, Mark.
Many stories. Jesus.
What a performance, Mark Hamill. Ha ha ha. He is fucking phenomenal. I gotta say, Mark Hamill's legit like one of my favorite people. If you look at his Twitter, he's such a good-hearted guy, and like this is not me just saying like, oh, he was Luke Skywalker. He's one of the best voice actors around.
He really is.
It's amazing how much range and passion he can put into his performances.
Yeah,
like even when he's in shitty stuff like Rhapsody, he doesn't half-ass it.
He's a very caring guy. All around.
Yeah. And I will, one little shout out to Mark Hamill. I don't think he's ever going to listen to this. A few months ago, I tweeted, there was a great Justice League action short on YouTube because he's back for playing Joker in that as well as Trickster, a Flash villain, and Swamp Thing. But it's a short. Did you see it where Joker and Trickster kidnap Mark Hamill, the person?
I did not see
So
that.
they kidnap him, they're in a car, but then he tricks them his way out of it. He imitates each of their voices to make them think they're arguing. And then he's saved by Swamp Thing, the guy he voices. And so I tweeted it, mentioning him and saying what a great meta joke. And then the next day I got on Twitter notifications, you got a like from @Hamill himself. And I lost my shit. Thanks, Mark.
Cool.
Thanks, Mark. You're a legit awesome guy.
Congrats on the like.
What?
Congrats on the like.
Yeah, that's probably the like I flipped out the most about. And yeah. But so this will draw our big episode 25 to a close. And I think we pulled it off with flying colors.
Yep.
Had a lot of fun talk about all three things that are two awesome things and one thing that we're pretty sure will be awesome. We both certainly highly recommend Castle in the Sky. I guess cautiously recommend Devilman Crybaby because it's not for everyone, but I say at least watch the first episode. And we will be talking more about Smash in the future. I'm very sure of that. But, no, this is going to be the footnote because I mentioned to you, I told you we were going to bring it back to Rabbids somehow.
Oh, boy.
So, you know how the plot of My Rabbids Kingdom Battle is that Rabbid gets fused with a fusing device, and he's that little meek one fusing stuff together?
Yeah.
His visor is very interestingly shaped, and somebody tweeted to the Ubisoft art director for that game, was that visor shape inspired by the robots from Lapida? And they immediately went, yup. Miyazaki's so influential, he influenced the Rabbids.
Neat. Well, that's nice. Cool.
The rabbits are cultured. They're animals of wonderful taste. And
let's not go too far. Let's read that back.
But now, but we should also announce what we're going to be doing for I guess the next two episodes because I've had a fun little idea And I'll say you were kind of, I think the idea had been for me to start it with episode 27 and you start with episode 28, but you had some trouble coming up with stuff for the next pick, so we bumped your pick up ahead.
Yeah. So we're gonna.
Well, let me just do the concept, because I think I brought up in the past when I've like mentioned stuff on the side, especially shows like Mission Hill that like nobody heard of. Like, if you're into media, you're bound to fall in love and hold in high regard stuff that never caught on. Like stuff that got canceled early on, stuff that has not had a big following, foreign stuff that very few people know of. And I told Chris, let's each pick a thing. So and Chris, you picked something you mentioned briefly on the Sonic episode. I don't know if you remember. Because we talked about TMS. So what movie will we be talking about for episode 26?
We will be talking about the long-fabled animated movie, Little Nemo in Slumberland.
Adventures in Slumberland.
Was it Adventures in Slumberland?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Maybe. Maybe I'm the wrong one.
Adventures in Slumberland.
Yes, a movie which I'll have a lot of good things to say about, but I will say I think the story about making it is more fascinating than the actual plot.
I have many things to say about it.
Yes, we both will, because here's the thing. This movie is legally available for free on YouTube.
Yeah.
I told Chris this before the show. He didn't know because he has the DVD. But yeah, if you Google Little Nemo, it'll be one of the first results. Look for TMS. It is completely legal, 720p, so you have no excuse not to watch it.
Yeah.
Granted, if you don't like it and turn it off, that's your choice. But I'm just saying, go check it out, especially because this is not a... Go ahead.
It's not horrible.
No.
It's fucking beautiful.
Oh, it has merit. I think we'll say a lot of things about it. I think it's going to be a fun one to talk about.
Yeah.
And my pick, I think it's going to be even more obscure because it's something that I think was big in its native Europe, but barely got a shot here, and I discovered it by chance. We are going to be talking the French TV cartoon, and I'll be talking the movie associated with it, but you don't have to watch it. Dragon Hunters, also known as Chasseurs de Dragons. I don't know if I said that first word right. If you haven't heard of it, I don't blame you. But if you look, you'll be able to find some of it on sites. I will say, avoid the second season for your first exposure. I will get into why eventually.
Right.
But so that brings us episode 25 to an end. Looking forward to talking both obscure stuff, and I'm sure our opening stuff will have some things people are more aware of. But I'm John Fleury.
And I'm Christopher Wade.
And Patty loves Sheeta.
Patty loves Sheeta.
And Dola to me like, shut up.
Patty loves Sheeta.
Be quiet.